It's FNL Gridiron here on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire. We are presented by Beals Insurance ahead of week number 5 statewide. Another jam-packed show on the way. 4 guests coming up here starting in about 10 minutes with the Nashua Telegraph's and ETV's own Tom King, longtime friend of the show. He's got his thumb on the pulse of everything in and around Nashua. So Tom leads off the guest list at about 6:15. Bottom of the hour, Matt Lee, Auburn head coach. He's got the town talking. After that 3-0 Broncos start, they suffered their first defeat over the weekend, and will look for another big challenge this weekend against Salem. So the second year head coach Matt Lee joins us at 6:30. 6:45 Eastern, Ryan Ray, longtime Central head coach. He's had the Little Green competitive, but that first win has been elusive. We'll chat with the coach again at 6:45. Final guest tonight at the top of hour number 2, Scott Knight, 20-year head coach with the Nashua South Purple Panthers. They are undefeated at 4-0. So a lot to get to with 3 head coaches and 1 senior member of the media coming up here over the next 60 or so minutes. Steve, how are you here as we head into week number 5? Hard to believe it's already quote-unquote mid-season, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's been it feels to me, Nick, like you're just saying there, it's a condensed schedule so far, even though it wasn't. I think that's because the Jamboree was certainly later in the month than other, probably by 5 or 6 days. I think that's kind of made it feel condensed, but we're starting to get the separation that usually happens mid-seed. That's certainly right on schedule, Nick, with the teams that, the 4 teams that are clearly up in the upper echelon. We still have to kind of work out and digest Londonderry after the game with Pinkerton, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But where Londonderry fits now, you're going to go over the power poll. But I tell you, this weekend was something else. It was a great weekend for us to be able to see these teams live. And we already saw Pinkerton, but it was a totally different environment than what we saw before. These 2 teams playing other teams. When these teams clashed, that was a special event, and let's not underestimate the significance of that, of the feeling that we found and the crowd that was at that Exeter at Winnicott game that we were able to see. So even though the scores kind of separated at the end, the competitiveness of the first half moving into the third quarter was pretty solid between these teams and gave a good game. I feel like I know both of these teams, all 4 of these teams, much better than I did before.
Yeah. Those 2 games that you allude to, of course, are up on our YouTube channel under the videos section. Londonderry Pinkerton, always a big draw. That game played at Lancer Park back on Saturday, and of course we were also on hand back on Friday to take in Exeter's win over Winnicott. So both of those broadcasts you can watch at any time on our YouTube channel, FNLNH Media. This weekend, our doubleheader comes your way beginning tomorrow night with Auburn at Londonderry. Again, we'll preview that game with Coach Lee coming up at the bottom of the hour. The Broncos look to rebound. Londonderry 2 losses early in the year, as the Lancers look to rebound early as well. So a 3-1 team visiting a 2-2 squad in Division 1 sets the table for this weekend. Then on Saturday, we are in the Queen City as Nashua South looks to stay unbeaten against Manchester Central. Again, Coach Ray and Coach Knight are coming up later on in the show. You mentioned the power poll, Steve. Let's get to it. Of course, that's the New Hampshire Union Leader power poll as voted on by selected members of the media. Bedford, for another week, still at the top of the statewide poll. The 2-time defending division champion Bulldogs are 4-0. They've scored exactly 35 points in each one of their victories so far. The latest, the 35-14 win over Goffstown. The Bulldogs look to keep that unbeaten streak going this weekend when they play host to Merrimack. Pinkerton and Londonderry were tied at number 2 going into last week. Pinkerton got the road win in Londonderry to improve to 4-0, and they've got the number 2 spot now all to themselves in the poll. Exeter, they leapfrog Londonderry with another win. Again, they beat Winnicott on the road back on Friday to improve to 4-0. They will take on Spalding on Saturday. Pinkerton, by the way, forgot to mention, will take on a tough Salem team tomorrow night. Londonderry, they slipped, but not too badly, down to number 4. And again, are 2-2 overall. They play host to Alvern Friday. Will be there, as I mentioned. Nashua South on the road this weekend at Central. They are number 5 in the poll, their highest ranking for the first time all year. That comes after a win in the Battle of the Bridge over Nashua North last time out. Alvern at number 6, they look to rebound. They were defeated by Wyndham over the weekend to drop their first game. They're 3-1. Speaking of Wyndham, the Jaguars move up to number 7 following that victory over the Broncos. They are 2-2. Plymouth, still the highest ranked D2 team in the poll. They are at number 8 this week. Kingswood gave them a little bit of trouble, but in the end, Plymouth stays unbeaten at 4-0. Salem, teetering at the bottom of the poll last week. They've now won 2 in a row after that 0-2 start to even up their record. And again, they will face Pinkerton coming up this week. Sauhegan will round out the poll. The the Division 2 contenders 4-0 after they smashed Manchester West by a final score of 35-6. A few teams receiving votes but not breaking into the top 10. Those would be Memorial. Crusaders are now 3-1. Their only loss was opening night out of state down in Rhode Island. Since then, 3 straight wins for Memorial. BG, they had an out-of-state battle last week. Campbell, the only D3 team to get a vote, and the defending D2 champion, Pelham, still unbeaten, by the way, they get a vote as well. So quick recap: Bedford at 1, Pinkerton 2, Exeter 3, Londonderry 4, Nashua South. Number 5, Alvern 6, Wyndham 7, Plymouth at 8, Salem at 9, Sauhegan 10, also receiving votes, Memorial, Bishop Gurdon, Campbell, and Pelham. Steve, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that, Pinkerton looked so solid against an outstanding Londonderry team, Nick. It's hard them to not put them at 1, but when you look at Bedford, the defending championships and haven't lost a game, obviously they're the king of the league until someone knocks them off. But I would say Pinkerton showed on Saturday how good they are, how deep they are, and how good their offense and defensive lines were, taking on what I would argue is one of the best offense and defensive lines on the other side of the field, and that being Londonderry. They are a solid team to beat by the margin that they did. So, having said that, Exeter, same situation as Bedford, not same as Bedford, but same as Pinkerton, have not lost a game. You've got to give them the edge in that number 3. I think Londonderry is a breakup big game this week. Alvern at Londonderry. We will be there. Big game, big breakout game. There are 2 things. We're going to see how good Alvern is, and we're going to see how good Londonderry is, depending on who wins that game. It's a big matchup at this juncture of the season. The one that I little puzzled is with Wyndham beat Alvern 14-12. I know they said they have 2 losses rather than 1, but one of those losses was against Pinkerton, Nick. So I don't know. That's a tough one. At 14-12, take your pick, I guess. But I'm a big head-to-head guy. But both of these teams are outstanding football teams. You got to give a tremendous amount of credit to Coach Lee, what he's done there. Coach Byrne has got his team ready. You could see in Pinkerton, you could see the shiny parts of that team. Now it's widening and spreading out, and the depth is spreading out. They're playing really well. I'm going to throw in Division 1 Salem in there as well. So I think from a stratification standpoint, I've got Bedford, Pinkerton, and Exeter. Then I have Londonderry right now in my mind, all by them lonesome in that kind of a wild card team of which tier they go up, they go down. This weekend's going to have a lot to say about that. And then you've got Alvern, Wyndham, and Salem and Nashua South in that group. Nashua South is right there as well, Nick. I'm really looking forward to talking to Coach Knight and see what his thoughts about how good his team is with the remaining schedule that he has, what he's got ahead of him, and how he feels at this point. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. Got to give the South staff and the South players and that whole community a tremendous amount of credit. They are, to me, beating the odds of what most people, I believe, thought they were going to be. and that just it's going to be fascinating to watch and see how the teams they face in the next 2 or 3 weeks, where they go. They could be as so good. Tom King, another great opportunity to talk to Tom King tonight. The man. Let's get to it. He's the guy to ask of how good is South compared to some of those upper tier teams that we spoke about. So that's kind of where I have it right now. But let's give credit to Plymouth and Sauhegan. These are outstanding football teams. What an opportunity to see Division II we have this year, to see so many teams in it. But these guys are right up there. They are destroying their competition along the way. That Sauhegan win over West. Let's see how West, if they rebound or not. It would seem would say they can. But boy, that is a big statement by Sauhegan, Nick, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. You mentioned him. Let's bring him in. Tom King, ready to roll here on his season debut.
There he is.
Of course, senior staff writer at the Nashua Telegraph and broadcaster at ETV. He's all smiles. He's still got the Compound Open, apparently, here in October. Tom, how are you?
Not bad. I'm at Steve's favorite spot, right? But this favorite spot he's never been to and never will. So, whoa, but yeah, behind me, you can see it's green and it's covered. So the half the compound is closed. So that's the way it goes.
I always thought the compound was a place of hospitality and welcomeness. My gosh,
it's a place where I keep everybody else out and I stay by myself.
Can't blame him for that. Every man.
It's my fortress. Superman had his fortress of solitude, and so did I.
Amen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Tom, I think Steve let the cat out of the bag in terms of the questions we were going to ask. And we might as well start with the big one, the 4-0 start for Nashua South. First time in a while under head coach Scott Knight. How good is this group compared to other teams that have come through Nashua South? 4 weeks, 4-0. Obviously, the results have been there, but you're as familiar with just about anybody outside of Scott Knight with that program. Your thoughts on the Purple Panthers 4-0 start? Is it for real? Are they contenders, pretenders? What's your assessment?
I think they're one of the 5 best teams in Division I. That being said, let's see who let's see after this week when they play Central. Let's see who what they do after that, because the thing gets a little bit tougher for them, right? Schedule gets a little bit tougher. They got to play Bedford. They've beaten Keene. They got to take on Merrimack, which always gives them trouble. So there's some games there that they really need to to get through and get that confidence. But what's happened, guys? It's not rocket science. It's just progression. Kids who are starting as freshmen are now starting as juniors. Kids who were starting as sophomores are still starting now as seniors. What do these kids do? As Cody Jackson, the quarterback, said to me a couple of weeks ago, bigger, faster, stronger. That's what they got. And thus and experience. They know where to play. To me, there's 2 things. Jackson is one of them. This kid has grown into the role as quarterback, both as a runner and a thrower. He's a dual threat. The other thing is defense. Scott Knight said it himself. Our defense makes me sleep like a baby, because he said last year he'd be up nights. He wouldn't be able to sleep. This year, they're very tough to throw on. You cannot throw on South successfully, at least not. It hasn't been done yet. Their defenders have a nose for the ball. Kids like Diego Cabrera, Josh Tripp, and they're both good on offense too. So, this is the thing. All you need to know about this team is they had the ball on their own 4-yard line with about 1:42 left, if I remember right. I'm getting old, guys, so my memory starts to fade.
No, you're right. You're right, Tom. I saw the game.
Yeah. So at the 4-yard line, and they called timeout. And I'm doing TV, and I'm saying to my partner, John Collins, I'm saying, what are they doing? I said, North can get the ball back. It's only 13-10. North could get the ball back if they stopped them here. 4 passes later and a run, they're in the end zone. What does that tell you? what a lot of confidence that Scott Knight has in this group. And Knight really kind of poo-pooed it afterwards. He goes, we just had a couple of things we thought we could do. They can do a lot. It's going to be interesting to see how they play down the road. So, it's fun. It's really a transformation because when they played in last week's game against Nashville North, it was the role reversal of a year ago. South was the winless team coming in, and North, I don't think they were unbeaten, or they were unbeaten last year. And then in the game, South jumped out to a 15-0 lead last year, and North, rallied with 28 straight points. Well, this time, North had a 10-6 lead early, in the midway through the second quarter, and South ends up scoring, if I do my math right, the last 31 points of the game. So there you go.
41-10 ends up being the final. You mentioned some of the gaudy totals. 41 points in the win over North, 36 split up in the out-of-state victory over Lowell. They shut out Keene in week 2, 22-0, and held off Bishop Girton in the opener, 21-15. So if you look at the progression, Tom, it seems like the offense is getting more potent, and that defense has been knuckle up the whole year, so to speak. How balanced is this group, and where are the areas for improvement that you've noticed through 4 weeks?
You mean where they can improve, Nick, or
Yes.
where they have improved? Where they can improve?
Or both.
I'd like to see them pound the ball down the field if they have to take time off the clock without throwing the ball. That I'd like to see. Otherwise, and also penalties. They still take too many penalties in a lot of instances. Last year they would have a good run. Yeah, exactly. They do a lot of things, and there were holds last week, and everything. It was an emotional game too, so you can't tell. But and they did that against a little bit against Keene too. They've cut down on the turnovers, so that's a big thing. But they'll still hand you the ball once in a while. So, but the one thing is there was a game I think a couple of weeks ago where Jackson was rolling out, and he kept the ball running. And Scott Knight said, a year ago he would have tried to throw the ball and force it, and it would have been picked off on the run. But this year, he's a little bigger, and he's just got a little bit more confidence carrying the football as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So
and
we'll
Tom,
see.
what's the latest?
Go ahead. I'd like to see them against a real tough physical team and see how they do against that. That's that's the next thing. But they are bigger. They spend a lot of time in the weight room in the off season. A lot of time. So go ahead, Nick.
I wanted to ask you about the turf field situation at Stello Stadium. What is the latest with that? We understand that they're trying to install some new turf and that the stadium may be closed down for a bit. Have you heard anything regarding that?
Nick, I was up till 3:30 in the morning writing all the stuff involving Stello Stadium for NashvilleTelegraph.com and also the Nashville Telegraph print edition this weekend. You're not going to see another football game or another sporting event at Stello Stadium during this fall season. So we are all going to be on the road somewhere. They've moved the South game to Winnicott next week, and they've Lisa Gingras is North and South don't have that many home games left. So this was if this was going to happen, they're not stuck with like 3 weeks of three straight weeks of home games. So I think she's got Sauhegan's field for November 1st when South plays Goffstown for their senior night, and she's working on doing something for North's game as well, which is I believe October 25th. So and also North has a home game against Merrimack that they've got to figure out what to do. I wouldn't be surprised if that shifts back over to Merrimack, but we don't know. But I mean, it's Mike McMahon of the Keene Sentinel tweeted it out last night. What a colossal failure on the part of Nashua, of the city of Nashua, and the city and the school department. It's a big failure. I think we all saw the turf. We all knew what it was like last spring. And it was my understanding that they were going to replace it. And then I heard over the summer, and then I heard that was not going to happen. And so I figured, okay, they're going to go through one more year, and we'll see, or maybe they'll replace it in November. Who knows? But they're not going to do anything. Mayor Doncic, if you go to nationaltelegraph.com, the lead headline is Doncic's goal is to get the new turf down by the end of November, before the cold sets in the winter, and get it done in November, and then it would be ready by the spring. But you got to push it through committees and money and everything. He's going to try to come up with the money, and they've had bonding issues. And what happened was it just got caught up in bureaucracy. There were warning shots fired all over the place at meetings. People were telling boards, look, you got to do something here. Somebody gets hurt, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. It's a city issue, it's a school issue, the whole deal. And just nobody grabbed it and ran with it. And unfortunately, as somebody who, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but somebody who really pushed and was kind of helped a little bit instrumental in getting the place built back in 2001 with what I wrote and everything else, I'm a little sad to see this happen, because it was a jewel of a facility when it was built, and to see it not get the attention it needs is a little disheartening to me. So, but that's the story. They are not going to play there again this fall.
Steve?
And what effect that's going to have on BG or South? South already loses a home game. They got to go to Winnicott next Friday instead of Winnicott coming here. And what that's going to do for BG and North, and BG will look to try to find other venues. I wouldn't be surprised that they can't use Riviera or PM Presentation of Mary, who are two other turf fields in the city for football. They can use it for soccer maybe, and they probably will, and field hockey. But they got to find a place to play football. Don't be surprised if they give St. A's a call and see if they played there a couple of times in the past. So don't be surprised if they give St. A's a call to see if there's any openings that they can do. But be prepared. I mean, 3:30 in the afternoon on Friday, tomorrow afternoon, I'll be at National High School North watching these two teams, North and Girton, play on a grass field. So
Steve?
It's sad.
No, I'm good. I think that's a lot of good information. I appreciate that, Tom, and we'll see how things move on the rest of the year. Certainly, thanks for coming on the program. I'll turn it back to Nick.
All right. Well, we appreciate the time, Tom. I did want to squeeze in a couple of, or I guess one question about Nashua
Sure.
North. You had mentioned that North was in the opposite position that Nashua South
Right.
is in a year ago. Of course, we're accustomed to seeing the Titans be successful. But an 0-4 start, they've had struggles, particularly on offense. I know it's a young group, but can you put your finger on exactly what has gone wrong there early on for Coach Zabolis and the Titans?
Well, you said it. They couldn't. Look, we saw this a little bit last year, late, right? After the Alvern playoff game, they went to Portsmouth. They got shut out, and that kind of started things. They're having a tough time on offense, and their best offense that I saw all season. They went 3 games without a touchdown, guys, and then they finally scored one because what they did was they gave the ball to Luke Peters in a what they call a diamond. I'm not a coach, but somebody referred it to me as a diamond formation. And Peters was just running, 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 12, 15 yards of carry on a drive and scored. And then they got another, and then they did it again. They got a field goal out of it. So if they can do that against Girton, get the ball in his hands, and Darius Smith as well. They moved Jack Krulakowski, who was playing like a tight end position. They moved him back on the offensive line. Last year, they had a tough time starting offensively, and Chad Zabolis moved Darius Smith and Krulakowski on the offensive line, and they started to gel. This year, I think they're going to keep Smith in the backfield because they need a big back to kind of batter some teams. But also, Krulakowski has moved down on the line, and that got them moving a little bit better last Friday night. But once you fall behind, it's tough. And if you ask Chad Zabolis, I don't know if you talked to him since, but he says they're just not playing 4 quarters, and they have to get in the habit of doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Tom, what are you
there you
covering
go.
this weekend?
Well, I'll be at the 2 national teams. I'll be 3 national teams. I'll be at North BG tomorrow afternoon, and then I'm going to head to Manchester on Saturday and see Central and Nashua South. I would like to be across the river at that West Milford game. That's at 2, but I can't do both. And unfortunately, I'd like to be at Campbell. They start at 11 in the morning, but I won't be able to get to Gill on time if I do that one too. So there's some good games this weekend. It's not bad, But I
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
North Girton game because Girton needs it. They lose that game, they're in a 1-3 hole. Remember, they're 2-2 overall, but 1-3 in the 1-2 in the division. They don't want to be 1-3 because that's an uphill climb to try to get into the playoffs. And they've got a good, decent team that can do that. So, but they don't want to make it too hard on themselves. And North is starving for a win. I expect a really good physical game on Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Full slate as usual. We're looking forward to it in week 5. We will see you, Tom, on the ground Saturday at Gill Stadium. We appreciate the time tonight. Thanks again.
Take
Well,
care,
I hope I'm
Tom.
not lying on the ground. I hope I'm standing up, Nick. So, all right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you. We'll see you
All
over the
right.
weekend.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
You bet.
The great Tom King from the Nashua Telegraph and ETV. A lot of coach talk coming up. We'll take our first break. Welcome in our first coach. That's Matt Lee, second-year head man at Albert. You are watching FNL Gridiron, presented by Beals Insurance.
Our broadcast today, as it always is brought to you by Beals Insurance Agency, with locations now in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Just call 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com to request a free quote and start saving money today. Again, that's BealsInsurance.com. The New Hampshire Tomahawks promote the highest level of club lacrosse competition, not just in the state, but in the country. Looking to get recruited? Director Chris Cameron keeps an open dialogue with the nation's top college lacrosse coaches. Over 400 New Hampshire Tomahawks alumni have played at the college level, including the ACC, Big East, Big Ten, Ivy, NESCAC, NE10, and more. New Hampshire Tomahawks coaching staff has over 100 coaches, including current high school, varsity, and college coaches. The Tomahawks offer training for players of all ages, clinics, camps, and leagues, along with spring, summer, and fall elite teams. So play with the best. The New Hampshire Tomahawks, showcase and development for college lacrosse. Visit NewHampshireTomahawks.com and girls.nhtomahawks.com. How can you reach your team's fundraising goals at no risk and no cost? MG Sports offers a variety of products to make your team's fundraiser a success. Their products include discount tickets, cards, and calendar raffles to hundreds of local merchants throughout the New England area. Don't waste another season. Raise more funds than ever before and become another football program in New Hampshire that sets fundraising records every season. MG Sports, fundraising made easy. Visit mgsportsfundraising.com to start raising money for your team today. Colonial Printing is family owned and celebrating 50 years of quality print services for New Hampshire businesses and can help yours as well. Whether it's creative design, digital or offset printing, or banners and signs, with state-of-the-art technology, unlimited industry sources, and the ability to think outside the box, Colonial Printing will help you get your job done. To see their full list of services, promo products, and portfolio, or to request an estimate, visit colonialprintingnh.com. That's colonialprintingnh.com.
It's FNL Gridiron here on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire. We are presented by Beals Insurance. We're live every Thursday night, 6 o'clock on the East Coast throughout football season. Can't watch it live, no problem. The archives are up under the video section on our YouTube channel, FNLNH Media. We appreciate Tom King for jumping on. We will speak with Ryan Ray of Manchester Central and Scott Knight of Nashua South. Those two teams get together Saturday in our Friday Night Lights New Hampshire Game of the Week at 1 o'clock. The weekend, though, begins tomorrow night at Lancer Park. 7 o'clock kick, Alvern at Londonderry. The Broncos are 3-1. The Lancers at 2-2. Our pregame begins at 6:45. Let's welcome in second-year head coach at Alvern, Matt Lee, who joins us from Alvern High. He's got, I understand, some parent-teacher conferences tonight. So, Coach, we'll keep this somewhat brief. First of all, thank you for scratching out a couple of minutes here in your very busy schedule. We appreciate it. How are you tonight?
Doing well, guys. Thank you. Luckily, the schedule worked out with my prep period here at 6:30. So glad to be here.
Great to have you.
All right, good stuff. 3-0 turns into 3-1. You'd like to be 4-0, but obviously the three victories early, I would imagine, instilled a lot of confidence in that group, and it's paid off. You got the quote-unquote upset win, really of the year so far, over Salem in week number 2. You follow that up with 48 more points in a blowout over Timberland, and you fought a very good Wyndham team on the road, tooth and nail last week, before falling by a final score of 14-12. What has been the difference, Coach, in your own words, from a year ago to this blazing hot start that your team has gotten off to in 2024?
It's our senior class. So this group played a lot of football last year, and they played a lot of football their sophomore year before I was here.
Mm-hmm.
When I came in 2 years ago, a lot of them were starting as sophomores and getting a little bit beat up. So 2 years now of lifting and 3 days a week in the mornings before school. Like, it's a really dedicated group. So our captains lead us. Our captains are really good players, but they're good leaders as well. But I think the weight room, it's been the number one. So now this is starting to show 2 years on now that it works. And
Yeah.
just strength and size, is conducive to winning football games. So that has really helped.
And I'd imagine your job has been a little more easier in year number 2 as well, or not? What have been the main differences last year as your first year on the scene to this year now as a 2-year veteran?
Yeah, year 2 is easier for the staff, and I think it's easier for the kids, most importantly. They kind of know us now. A lot of the same coaches. We added a couple really quality assistant coaches this offseason. But they know the routine, so that they're into it. And offensively, last year it was a grind getting everything in and a new defense. And this year it was really in the summertime we got most of that done. So in August we could just start practicing football. It wasn't the whole install and learn the plays and the language. They already had all that down.
Steve?
Yeah, how does it feel to be in the top 10 poll? It must feel pretty good. You guys have certainly earned that. And, to go 14-12 or 12-14 against Wyndham, even though that isn't a win, is a sound, that's a tough football team. So how does that feel, first of all? And then second, what are your thoughts about Wyndham, and what do you feel about your guys at this point, suffering their first loss, but as they look forward going into Londonderry this weekend?
Yeah, so it's being ranked by whoever wants to say we're a top 10 team. That's awesome. I'd like to be playing into November where there's no doubt we're a top 10 team. It's
You
not
bet.
anyone's opinion. It's a fact because we're still alive.
Right.
Wyndham last week, it was a tough game. I told the kids, disappointed with the result, not disappointed with the effort. The kids played really hard. Game could have went either way. I'm sure, Wyndham saying the same thing. We could have made more plays and won by more, and we're saying we could have made plays and won the game. But yeah, that was a really cool night. The whole pageantry of it all with the blackout cancer game was a lot of fun for the kids. Maybe a little nerves crept in there at the beginning, but I think it went away for most of them as the game went on.
What a progression. Sophomore year, as you were saying, these guys are young, got varsity experience, kind of sharpens the tools a little bit, and they come in next year. I found last year, I could see this coming on, Matt. You could feel it. It was things were just kind of working. You knew Alvern was on the right path. You've got 50, if I'm not correct, you've got 56 guys on the roster right now, on the varsity roster. That I believe is more than what you had previous to before you came. But I mean, how does it work as far as in the school now? Is the school got a lot of spirit in it right now? You think it's going to be helpful to recruit more guys in Alvern to play football? How's all that going as you move forward? As far as where the program is right now in the school and the attitude on campus.
Yeah, I actually commute to Alvern. I don't work at the school, but I think, from the kids and parents and just students that aren't a part of the football team, I think there's a lot of excitement around it. We did get a few kids that we've been trying to get on the team for a couple of years, and weren't interested playing different other sports, and they actually came out this
Absolutely.
year. So yeah, our numbers are up a little bit at the varsity level. And you have to be in Division 1. You're going to have some injuries, which we have some injuries right now, but you got to have guys that can fill in.
You got Londonderry this weekend. We did the game, and I'm sure maybe you've seen the film. I'm not sure, but Pinkerton looked really strong against them. But you can't take Londonderry lightly. What do you feel about that going into Londonderry this week again? What are the things that you guys have to really shine on? What are the things that you guys have got to be really careful of as it relates to the Lancers, coach?
Well, that's not your average 2-2 football team. They're
No, it
really
isn't.
good.
No.
I'm familiar with St. John's Prep. Like, that's an absolute powerhouse of a program. And I bet you Coach Lozon would tell you that they didn't play their best game last week against Pinkerton.
Yeah.
We know they're good in all three phases. Special teams really jump out on the film. They're really creative in their special teams. They do some things that a lot of teams wouldn't try. And it's very clear watching them that they spend a lot of time on special teams, and then just their sheer size. They're probably the biggest team when you walk out of the locker room and you see their kids. Most teams in the state don't look like them, so they're as advertised. They're going to be really good. It's not over for Londonderry because they're 2-2. I expect to see them very much alive at the end of the year.
Agreed. One of the things that you were talking about is the guys. Yeah, about the guys now are seniors and they've got a lot of playing time. But is there anything with this group as far as their performance so far, on the field that surprised you? Maybe it went past your expectations, which were obviously very high. What are some things that they're doing better than you even thought, or areas or parts of the team that are exceeding what you might have thought?
Yeah, I would say, guys being willing to adapt, because we've got some guys
Wow,
that
that's a
thought they
good
were
one.
going to play running back or quarterback. Sean Boudreau was our quarterback most of the season last year,
Mm-hmm.
and he's playing guard now. Shane Mackey is potentially going to be a running back. He's playing guard. So the unselfishness of this senior group has been something that really impressed me, and just how hard the kids play after every game. You got the team at the end, and it's like every game I'm just thinking, like, man, you guys played really hard, whether it's the 3 wins or the loss. They get after it really good.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Coach Matt. When Alvern's in the mix in Division One, that makes the league better. The Cowboys have struggled, or the Broncos, excuse me, have struggled through some of the years that I was watching them, and I know it's quote unquote considered a big soccer school, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing, but to see football coming back and moving in the right direction in Alvern's is a big deal. A lot of history there that goes way back. And the excitement that you and your staff is bringing to this team is just continuing to widen out Division One teams that it's anybody's game any week. So really respect what you're doing over there, and I wish you guys the best for the rest of the season. Hopefully this show can keep on rolling on. And but you've done a fabulous job, and everybody in the state is a beneficiary of that, and I mean that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Maybe some of the teams in the Central can start falling off, because this division is brutal. Every week it's an absolute battle. So yeah, I mean, it's good to be in the mix, but we have a very difficult schedule, and every week's a tough one.
Well, best of luck to play you guys' best game next week. It is a tough opponent, but you guys have proved this year that you're not afraid of anybody, and anything can happen in that game. And like I say, the quality of play. I've only been able to watch one film, unfortunately, but what I saw in that game was guys who were disciplined and a high degree of execution, and that lends itself to, like you said, to the guys. That's a great thing to talk about, those guys that were playing in quote unquote the shiny positions, so to speak, that are out there in the positions like guard that really matter and really move a team forward. That's the kind of selflessness that a football team needs. So congratulations on what you guys have done so far, and I think the whole league is excited and behind Alvern football coming back. So great job. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot for having me on. We'll see you tomorrow night.
I appreciate it, Coach.
There.
Thank you, Coach. That's again second-year head coach Matt Lee with Alvern. They will look to really shake up the apple cart tomorrow night if they can win in Londonderry. We're on the ground 6:45 ahead of that 7 o'clock kick between the Broncos and Lancers. Saturday, of course, second part of our weekend doubleheader. Nashua South against Central. That's live from the Queen City. Our 12:45 pregame coverage gets you set ahead of that 1 o'clock kick.
You
On the
know,
home sideline Saturday will be Ryan Ray, and he is ready to join us right now here on FNL Gridiron, presented by Beals Insurance, I believe
there
now
he is.
18-year head coach, joining us on the ride home from practice. Coach Ray, how are you this evening, sir? Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm doing great, guys. How you guys doing?
We are
This is a
good.
first,
We appreciate it.
the first guest that's driving as he's on. He's a busy guy. This looks like a movie,
Yeah,
coach.
absolutely. It's fantastic. The things we can do with technology nowadays.
Right,
It's unreal. It
right,
really is.
right. Coach, we spoke with you last about a month ago or so on the eve of the season after the Queen City Jamboree. Your thoughts on your start? Obviously, not where you want to be record-wise, but I'd imagine there's plenty of silver linings to draw from. You were high on your senior quarterback, obviously, going into the year, and that defense has been kind of up and down so far through 4 weeks. Your thoughts on some of the things that you have seen that maybe have not shown up in the box score or in the final score that have encouraged you and your staff through 4 games?
Well, yeah, no, our guys have done an amazing job dealing with adversity. When we probably last spoke, we definitely had our goals set pretty high on this season. We have a really, really good senior class, great bunch of leaders, really, really good junior class. That's a very good supporting group. Unfortunately for us, we really got bit by the injury bug. So every time we turn around, we're losing somebody. So we're really dealing with some adversity that nobody can plan for. And the situation that we were in this year, we thought we were going to be a really good team. We're really going to be competitive if we were able to stay healthy. And it sounds like I'm starting to make excuses, but I'm not. It's hard. We're having a hard time right now competing with the big boys of Division I high school football, with a little bit of an undermanned team. But you asked the question, what are we proud of? What's the silver lining? Our guys are being really resilient. There's no quit in them. They're fighting, they're scrapping, they're punching. We went toe to toe with the Winnicott right up until the fourth quarter. We played Salem last week, and although we didn't go toe to toe with them, we recovered an onside kick in the fourth quarter, down by 10 points, and had a chance to do something, in that game before obviously Salem was able to put us away. So our guys aren't quitting. Our guys are showing up every Friday or Saturday, and they're giving us their best effort. So when you deal with it, a bunch of injuries, that's, I guess, really all you can hope for.
Yeah, and I'm going to state the obvious here. Injuries obviously make your job much more difficult, especially in season when you have little time to prepare. How has you and your staff? How have you guys tackled that injury issue? Because you're right, it's wiped out a number of starters on both sides of the ball. How do you navigate that hurdle, so to speak, as a coach and a staff?
Well, as a coaching staff, you have to just hope that you've been doing a good job with everybody since day one, so that when the next guy up and the next guy up and the next guy up have to get reps, that it's not all brand new to them. So
Right.
and that's one of our hardest jobs. Any coach's job is juggling, your Friday night guys, your starting guys, with maybe some kids that are right now your third or fourth string. Well, in a blink of an eye, those third and fourth stringers can be starters. So if you look at us, and again, it certainly sounds like I'm making excuses, so I wish I wasn't, but for us, we're starting two freshmen this week on the offensive line, and that's kind of like a holy crap moment. We got two 14-year-old kids playing varsity football against some maybe 18-year-old men. So you have to trust your coaching staff, all the way from your freshman staff up to the varsity staff. You have to trust that they did a good job laying the foundation the first few days of August. You guys kids want to be out there and competing. So, you plan for the best, but when the worst happens, we just roll with the punches. So you got to trust your coaches, and the process all do every day.
Yeah. And of course, Coach, you've now been at the head of the program for nearly 20 years. I think maybe 18, 19, something like that. But but the point being is you've seen a lot of changes, not just in within the program itself, but within the state of New Hampshire and the affairs of football. What has it been like over the last 20 or so years to be a head coach at particularly one of the more traditionally winning schools in Manchester Central? What are the differences you see today in 2024 when it comes to coaching up these kids versus when you first arrived back in 2006 or so?
That's a great question. I think obviously the technology thing has really changed how everybody goes about everything. So we're living in a technology world. It's an instant gratification world. Sometimes it's harder to stay focused on the long haul when everything you want, everything you do, everything you need is, at the tip of your fingers of a swipe or a click or, that kind of thing. So I was talking with a mother the other day, and her son is, I hope, going to be a great football player for us someday. But, this year he was really having a hard time with, making the commitment to practicing 4 days a week, playing a game on a fifth day and doing those kind of things. So I would say if there was any, real change or anything that was a little more difficult now than it was, say, 20 years ago, it would be maybe the attention span and the attention to detail, because as everybody that is involved in football knows, you can't just show up on a Friday night and hope to beat anybody good. You got to put in the work, not only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but you got to put long hours in the weight room in the winter, the spring, the summer. You got to put long hours out on the 7-on-7 field and working out with your boys. So it's sometimes it's hard to compete with all the instant gratification, social media, video games, virtual reality things. So it's sometimes it's difficult to do that, but at the end of the day, kids are kids, and I say this to my guys all the time. I'll be honest with you guys. The first couple of weeks, I think we were probably all a little frustrated with where we were. The injuries were biting us in the rear end, and we weren't executing. We played two great teams right off the bat. Alvin, you just talked to the coach. And we played Concord. So every time we made a little mistake, Alvin and Concord capitalized on it. So the first couple of weeks, we were, I think we were all a little bit, a little salty, a little disappointed. But you step back and you look at these kids, and man, they're, as I said, we're starting some freshmen playing varsity football. You look at 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, and the amount of hard work that they're putting in. At the end of the day, the kids are the kids, and they're doing a great job for us. So while times have changed, for the most part, the kids are the same, and they're great. And I'm really appreciative that I'm allowed to do this on a weekly basis.
Steve?
Congratulations, Coach. We talked a little bit last month about it, but congratulations on what I would say is it was a terrific, I hope you feel the same way, jamboree to get this season jotted. So congratulations on all the work you and the staff and the guys down there at Gill did to make it a great event. But the question that I had for you was, as far as, the games that, like we're going over scores and the games we do at halftime, it always seemed like you guys, every time I remember, were in that game around halftime, or certainly within striking distance. Is it a depth issue that happens in the second half where all of a sudden things slip away? Is that what's going on right now? With some of these games, because it seemed to me like you were closer around halftime on the scores we saw.
That's a great question. Each game is its own thing, and they go, whatever way they go is the way they go. I know that's not a really good answer, but
Sure.
we usually start off pretty well. Depth is definitely an issue. If it goes back to the injury thing, some people will look at an injury and say, like if you lose Tom Brady, your whole team's, in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Well, that's
Right.
true. But in high school football, we're not just losing Tom Brady, but we're losing Tom Brady and a defensive back. So we lost one of our senior captains, a player by the name of Wyatt Fougere, and he's just a great kid and a great leader. But we had him penciled in to be a rotating starting tailback with Trevor Wong and be a starting safety. So when we lose Wyatt, and we lose Wyatt for the first 5 weeks of the season, not only are we losing our starting best safety, but we're also losing a rotational running back. So instead of Trevor Wong and Wyatt splitting the carries in the backfield, Trevor Wong now has to carry the ball 30 times, and
Right.
Trevor Wong has to play linebacker. So it's not so much, a lack of depth per se, but it's a lack of starting depth. And I think a lot of the teams, minus the schools that have 120 kids in the program, 130 kids in the
Right.
program, I think a lot of schools are probably in the same boat. You lose
Yep.
one of your best players on one side of the ball. Well, now that's, putting two different kids in at two different positions that, you know, you lose one kid and now you might have to fill two positions is kind of what I'm saying.
Right.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it goes back to the depth and the challenges that come with trying to fill in those spots. So,
And maybe the drop
yeah,
offs between the starting player and the next player, right?
yeah, no,
The level.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, and we've talked to our guys a lot about this. I'm of the opinion, I'm gonna tell everybody that wants to hear me, including our guys, this team's 2, 3, 4, 5 times better than this team was last year. There's no doubt
Right.
about it. I don't care what the
Right.
records, because of those same kids, and I'll drop the same two kids' names. Trevor
Yep.
Wong was a two-way starter for us last year. Well, Trevor Wong better than he was last year as a junior. Once
Right.
Wyatt finally gets back on the varsity football field, I know senior year Wyatt's going to be a whole lot better than he was junior year. So, yeah, when you start losing seniors and you have to start counting on sophomores and juniors,
Yep.
it becomes a problem. But again, nobody feels bad for us. We just have to show up because everybody, again, unless you're the Pinkertons and Londonderrys and Exeters of the world, I think everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to be senior heavy, and if you're not senior heavy, then you're going to struggle because there's a lot of great senior football players out there in the state of New Hampshire.
Certainly. When you look at break down the film this week against Nashua South, obviously they're performing quite well. What are the things that, when you look at that team, that you've really got to prepare for? What are their strengths as you see it when you break down film, Ryan?
Well, they are dynamic on offense. They run a spread offense, which I think everyone's probably pretty familiar with. They
Yep.
will a lot of times have four wide receivers. Occasionally, they'll have two running backs in the backfield, or they'll motion a slot receiver into the backfield to take speed sweeps and the power run game. So they are very, very dynamic. Their quarterback is a big time playmaker. All the guys that potentially could touch the ball, could take it to the house at any time if you're not careful. So offensively, they're very, very dynamic. They've done a great job of spreading the ball around. Defensively, they get after you. Their linebackers are fast. They hit. Their D line is very aggressive. They're very athletic, and their defensive secondary, I haven't seen anybody really be able to pass on them. So we
Agreed.
got a huge, huge challenge ahead of us. We can certainly see why we're 0 right now. Every game that they played that we watched, they were hard fought games, and then as on they just started to pull away and really kind of pull on people. So you got to give Scott Knight and all the coaches down there at South a ton of credit. They
Yep.
run an incredible program. He's been there for a super long time, and I'm glad to see that they're having some success. Obviously, we hope they have zero success on Saturday, but now they're having a ton of success, and it's well deserved because their coaching staff's doing a great job, and their players are really getting after it. As I said, just dynamic on both sides of the ball.
Well, I think that you nailed it. Their stamina, their ability to play 4 full quarters of football is, to me, amongst all the other things you said, but the thing that I noticed mostly in the games as they work in the fourth quarter, they're just as strong, if not stronger, by the end. So, Ryan, as always, thanks for what you do at Central with those guys there. Certainly pulling for you guys, hoping you guys can turn this season and keep on progressing as the year goes on. Looking forward to being at Gill this weekend covering that game. So thank you so much for all your hospitality that you showed us earlier in the year, and look forward to seeing a good one on Saturday. Best of luck to you.
Thanks, guys, and thank you for all you guys do for New Hampshire high school football.
Love it.
You know what? A lot of people appreciate what you guys do, and I certainly do as well. So I thank you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you very much. Coach Ryan Ray, class act and head of
He sure
Manchester Central's football program. They look for their first win this weekend against undefeated Nashua South. Longtime Purple Panther head coach Scott Knight joins us next. Final guest of the evening on the other side. You are watching FNL Gridiron, presented by Beals Insurance.
Our broadcast today, as it always is brought to you by Beals Insurance Agency, with locations now in both Bedford and Londonderry. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Just call 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com to request a free quote and start saving money today. Again, that's BealsInsurance.com. The New Hampshire Tomahawks promote the highest level of club lacrosse competition, not just in the state, but in the country. Looking to get recruited? Director Chris Cameron keeps an open dialogue with the nation's top college lacrosse coaches. Over 400 New Hampshire Tomahawks alumni have played at the college level, including the ACC, Big East, Big Ten, Ivy, NESCAC, NE10, and more. New Hampshire Tomahawks coaching staff has over 100 coaches, including current high school, varsity, and college coaches. The Tomahawks offer training for players of all ages, clinics, camps, and leagues, along with spring, summer, and fall elite teams. So play with the best. The New Hampshire Tomahawks, showcase and development for college lacrosse. Visit NewHampshireTomahawks.com and girls.nhtomahawks.com. How can you reach your team's fundraising goals at no risk and no cost? MG Sports offers a variety of products to make your team's fundraiser a success. Their products include discount tickets, cards, and calendar raffles to hundreds of local merchants throughout the New England area. Don't waste another season. Raise more funds than ever before and become another football program in New Hampshire that sets fundraising records every season. MG Sports, fundraising made easy. Visit mgsportsfundraising.com to start raising money for your team today. Colonial Printing is family owned and celebrating 50 years of quality print services for New Hampshire businesses and can help yours as well. Whether it's creative design, digital or offset printing, or banners and signs, with state-of-the-art technology, unlimited industry sources, and the ability to think outside the box, Colonial Printing will help you get your job done. To see their full list of services, promo products, and portfolio, or to request an estimate, visit colonialprintingnh.com. That's colonialprintingnh.com.
Well, live every Thursday at 6 o'clock Eastern is FNL Gridiron here on Friday Night Lights, New Hampshire. We are presented by Beals Insurance. Archives are up on our YouTube channel, FNLNH Media. Nick and Astis, Steve Beals with you ahead of week number 5 statewide, which kicks off tomorrow night for us with our Friday Night Lights New Hampshire game of the week in Londonderry. Live from Lancer Park, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock kick between Alvern and Londonderry. Saturday, we're back at it in the great city of Manchester, live from Gill Stadium at 12:45 with the pregame coverage. 1 o'clock, Nashua South and Manchester Central get underway. We appreciate Tom King for jumping on to help us preview those games. Of course, we got an inside look at Alvern's 3-1 start from Coach Matt Lee, and some good stuff just moments ago from longtime Central head coach Ryan Ray. Joining us now, again on the way home, is Scott Knight, the 20-year head coach at Nashua South. Good evening, Coach. We can hear you, but we can't see you. Is there any way you can flick on a light in the cab for us? Coach, are you there? Coach, can you hear us? Well, we'll try to reconnect with Coach Knight here and hopefully get him on in a moment or two. But Steve, we'll start with what we just heard from Coach Ray. He's certainly upbeat despite the 0-4 start for Central. Injuries have hit them very hard, abnormally hard, frankly, in the early portion. But yet those kids have showed the willingness to fight, in his words. Your thoughts on what we just heard from Coach Ray?
I just think that Coach Ray has got a situation where, like he said so aptly, a lot of teams have, where they really need to reload, and instead of reloading every year, they got to rebuild something every third year. And I'm not saying that that's not getting better. A lot of teams' rosters are growing and making some good progress in that area. But nevertheless, there are some teams that are able to reload a good senior group every single year. The competition for each of those positions is fierce. As a result of that, the depth is broad. Ryan is right on. He's got okay. His starting offenses and starting defense are a solid group of guys, but it's difficult to maintain that level if you have injuries. You kind of you're working in guys that with the distance between the ones and the twos is maybe a little bit larger margin than what other teams are doing. So especially against teams that are seniors all year long. I think we got Scott here, so I'm going to
Yeah,
back off.
let's
Yep,
try this again. Coach Knight, can you hear us?
Yeah, I
there he
got you.
is.
Okay, yeah, we got you. A little difficult to see in the cab, but we'll try to make it work here.
It's
um,
Halloween, Coach. It's the Halloween thing. That's what's going
right,
on there.
Oh
right.
my God, I've been just been a tough ride, tough run home. Yeah.
Coach 4-0. First of all, congratulations on
Yeah.
the undefeated start. Did the 4-0 record catch you and your staff by surprise, or was this kind of the state's best held secret here a month in?
I don't know. I'm not sure we were surprised. We thought we'd have a good season. I just wasn't sure. We'd catch fire right away. I mean, we started out in that Curtin game, 15-0. We almost nearly just lost it at the end, and we've gotten better each week since then. So we're happy where we're headed. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you,
Oh,
Coach.
okay. Yeah. So we're happy where we're headed. Are we surprised? Not really. I mean, like I said, we had a good start. We worked really hard. Really the same kids we had a year ago. We were in a lot of games. We had leads in a lot of our games last year. We just would make young mistakes. We just couldn't quite finish. And so take those more last year. Old guys are big, are strong, and they're football players. So we expect
Yeah, Coach, you're breaking up a little bit. We're going to try to reconnect a third
to be
time
able
here,
to
as you
just.
can hear. Coach, the
Yeah.
audio going in and out there. We apologize.
Well, I think in
That's the
some cases driving doesn't really work while you're because it's just the cell connection can't maintain a good enough signal. So hopefully maybe there's a place that because I'd love to be able to talk to Coach Knight.
yeah.
So,
I'm sure Ben's on it right now. We'll see if we can get him back on here
but he sure as heck's
momentarily.
got himself a good football team. I thought Tom's analysis was good. Really enjoyed listening to some of the in-depth stuff. Tom, folks that follow those. Is Scott there now?
Yeah, I'm
Coach?
here. Yeah,
Okay,
he is
Yeah, we
there.
that
lost
sounds
you there.
clear. Yeah, we caught most of that first answer up until
Yep.
the end, but let's kind of pick up hopefully where you left off. Tom King's analysis was that this is a group that has a lot of experience, that cut their teeth in real time as freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and now as upperclassmen as seniors have taken that next step. Is that an appropriate analysis, or is there more to it than that?
Oh, that 100%, 100%. Samuel Levine started as a tailback as a freshman. Josh Tripp was our leading receiver as a freshman, and Colvin LeVake started
Mm.
corner as a freshman. So there's three kids right there, and then a host of those other guys. We started another 7 or 8 of them last year.
Mm.
Yeah, so experience obviously has been a strength for your squad. And then, Coach, I'd also imagine, and you alluded to it briefly earlier, that week one tight win over Bishop Girton, where you jumped out with the lead, they came back, and then you had the last say. Did that help your group from a confidence standpoint, a mental standpoint, knowing that they can win those tight games so early in the season? Was that a factor? Was that a turning point, Coach, or is that just um, something that maybe overrated by those in the media?
Oh my God, that was huge for us. It was so big just because of the year we had last year. We came close in some games. We just couldn't figure out how to get that win. And we played better late. We beat Merrimack late and beat Winnicott in that extra game. But there were games that we thought got away from us, just like that Central game last year was crazy. We thought that we had that, and so uh, Yeah, so that was a huge one for us to get that Girton win, and we left a lot of points on the field that day, and we've cleaned a lot of that stuff up since then. The kids are definitely playing better each week and getting more confident.
Yeah, Steve.
Coach, thanks for coming on. First of all, we got a nice still shot right now, and the lights in the background is there. We can actually see you, so good to see you. First, before I start, give our regards to Trevor, if you would, for us. We hear his name thrown all over the league. I hear it all the time about the difference that he's making in quarterbacks throughout the state and beyond. So please give him our regards.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
doing a great job. Doing a great job. Let's take a look at the thing that I've noticed from the games that I've seen. I've seen two of your games because I was able to get it on film and watch it. And I saw it ever since the BG game when you started. What is it about this team's 4 quarters of football that I would say across anybody in the league, the way that Nashua South is finishing the fourth quarter is really exemplary of this team. What goes into that? Is it the weightlifting and conditioning? Is it the specific attitude of these guys? Is it you and your assistant coaches really emphasizing this year? Because, boy, I think that's been a huge difference maker for a 4-0 record.
I mean, it's a combination of a bunch of things. Our kids were relentless for 9 months in the weight room, and they don't just lift weight; they do a lot of different things, and so
Yeah.
they came in really good shape, and they work hard, and that was one thing I was really proud of them last year. We had a tough year, but sometimes you're waiting for that something, maybe some negativity or something to creep in amongst players or coaches or whatever. But we would have a tough night on a Friday night, and they show up Monday ready to go, and they keep doing it week after week after week. We have a lot of kids that just love football, and they work really hard at it. And we run a really fast tempo practice. Uh, Dave Jackson does a good job, like getting those kids, and we up and down the field. Team take off, and team goes pretty quick. We want to have the ability to go fast on a Friday night. We got to go fast during the week. We got to be in shape for that. So we don't really even do a lot of conditioning. We may do some running because we had a bunch of penalties, things like that on a Monday. But for the most part, conditioning goes on throughout practice. So, try to tell the kids that practice should be harder than a game. If we put our time in, you're gonna get a breather in a game. You may go on a play drive and get a breather. Where in practice, you're going and going. So a lot of it is combination of how they're operating practice, and just
Well, it's very evident on the field, Scott, that coach that is 4 quarters of football is right is almost done with ease with these guys. That the commitment that they have to finish a game. Want to talk about your defense just a little bit, and specifically your defensive pass defense core. These guys are as good as I've seen when on the 2 games that I've seen. Talk about these guys a little bit and the synchrony in which they work together. And the quick reaction time they have on pass routes to zone in on where the ball's thrown. Talk a little bit about these guys, and is this one of the best cores you've had defensive backfield in a while, or what?
I would say one of the best I've seen that we've had. I mean, they go get it. Balls in the air, they go get it for sure. They're well coached. Josh Porter and Matt Froman do a great job on that side of the ball, preparing our guys. They're pretty much know what's coming for the most part. But above everything else, we actually have some size there now. We've
Yes.
always been relatively pretty small, even like at slot back. We always had a bunch of. We still have some smaller guys in some areas, but we have some size now. Josh Tripp is pushing 6'3", and
Right.
Diego Carrera is close to 6 feet tall. And Colvin LeVake is, he's average. He's not small. He's probably 5'9", but all jump. They all have great ball skills. Kyle Emmons, we haven't even talked about him. He's one of our best players. We just started playing last week because he's been out most of the camp with a hamstring. you'll see more of him. And then Gus Smiley he's another kid that just a great runs the alley real well and tackles. He's pretty tenacious and he's a super bright kid too. So
Yep.
Colin Kachanik is on the shorter side. He's probably 5'4", 5'5", but
Mm-hmm.
he had a couple covers last week. He can run with
Mm-hmm.
anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
we're pretty confident with any of those guys.
Yeah. Well, let's talk roll the offense just for a sec. I mean, let's talk about Jackson for a second. One of the things, the decision making on this young man on when to run and make that sees the field incredibly well. But one of the things I saw in some of these great passing drives that you guys have had is his arm strength outside the hashes. From the drop back position. I mean, has he always had that, or is this something that's really developed as he's grown older, stronger, and faster?
He definitely got a lot stronger and faster in the
Yeah.
offseason. He also had to come off a really bad broken collarbone in the Spalding game,
Mm-hmm.
so he couldn't even get going for a while. Anyway, he had to have surgery on that thing. But
Yeah.
he didn't really start playing quarterback till midway through his freshman year. He'd never played the position. He was always a slot back. So last
Mm-hmm.
year was his first full season playing the position, and you know we had we were young all over the field. So yeah, we turned it over a lot. I think I don't know. I think combined combined. Let me tell you this: combined in 2 years, we had 30 picks,
Yeah.
17 here and 13 another, and that's just frankly that's just too many. But that comes
Yeah.
from inexperience. Where now what we in him do is he might have thrown it up last year, where now he pulls it down and takes off, and now
Yes, he
he
does.
finds those he finds those escape hatches. He throws to open people and puts the ball where people can catch it. And we knock on wood, we haven't thrown a pick this year. Uh,
Yep.
sometimes get unlucky and
I
stuff,
just did
but
it for you.
uh, yeah, right, exactly right. So, but he's doing a great job of taking care of that ball, and that makes a big difference.
Yep. Yep. Well, I got to tell you, the thing that impresses me the most, and there's a lot of things about your team that are impressive, is the ability to finish games and really almost get stronger in the fourth quarter against teams that you've played. That to me was a difference. We saw the Keene game, and you guys just. I mean, I thought Keene. Yeah, I think they were 2-0 at the time that you guys played them, if I'm not mistaken, or at least 1-0. And I thought that
Yeah,
they were strong, and they are, but you guys really handled them with ease. But the BG game is the one that really stood out. Obviously, the passions flow inside those Nashua three teams playing each other. That's never going to be a motivation problem with these guys playing them. But still, nevertheless, that experience and stamina to be able to finish the game. So I tell you, I wouldn't want to be a coach trying to figure out you guys from so many different facets. Um, Honestly, from a constructive thing, Tom and Nick were talking about earlier, other than to just get the penalty flags down a little bit from some of those early season motion penalties and things of that nature. You guys correct those especially on the offense, to let that offense. I mean, there's even areas for you guys to improve to be even better than you already are, and that's a scary thought to your opponents. So congratulations to you and the whole staff of guys and the staff of the assistant coaches. You guys are I think, well rated, in the various polls throughout the league, and you guys have earned it. So congratulations to you. You must be having a lot of fun this year, right? You said you were sleeping well, anyway.
yeah. Well, I sleep well because that defense, and the
Yeah.
credit to. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention like our line play right now.
Yes.
Keene had some good linemen, BB, and we're actually putting a dent in people up front on both sides of the
Yep.
ball, and that makes a huge difference. And last year, we used our center last year, Kevin Hamill, was 14 his first varsity start, 14 years old.
Yep.
He's put on 50 pounds, and he's good. Our Kevin Hamill,
Yep. Yep.
he's a junior now, but it's such a big difference going from your sophomore year to your junior year. And Kevin Ndubisi he's animal, our right tackle, a DN,
Yep.
Ray Guru, a D end on played outside backer last year, so him and Kevin are tough coming off the edge. And we have some other guys. Trevor Stevens started last year as a sophomore. You know, he's not a small kid either. He's 250. So
Yep. Yep.
you know, we've been using some different guys at left guard because of injuries and things. But Teddy Smiley and Jason Vasquez. But those guys, credit to those guys because they're doing a really good job.
Yep. Well, best of luck. I'll hand it back to Nick, but best of luck this weekend, and keep the train rolling. This is going to be a fun season for Nashua South for sure.
Thank you guys, and thanks for everything you guys do for the state. And I guess you guys are gonna go. You'll be there Saturday.
Oh yeah,
We will be. Coach, we
All right.
appreciate it. Best of luck Saturday for sure. And thanks again for coming on tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Knight, 20-year head man at Nashua South. Purple Panthers looking to improve to 5-0 with a road win this weekend. We will be there beginning at 12:45 on Saturday, a 1 o'clock kick between Nashua South and Manchester Central. Of course, tomorrow night we are live at Lancer Park as Londonderry plays host to Alvern. Lancer's looking to bounce back after the loss to Pinkerton. Alvern hoping to get their 4th win of the season. Steve, final thoughts on what was a very productive show. Good stuff from those 3 head coaches. And, of course, it's always fun to check in with Tom King.
yeah. I had 5 games, Nick, that I was looking at. Exeter and Winnicott, we've talked about. We did that game. Obviously, Pinkerton and Londonderry talked about that. Salem and Central, you talked a little bit about that. That's a big win for Salem to get back on track. Let's see what they can do as a progress of the season. They were certainly one of my favorites in the early part of the season. And then, of course, that Wyndham-Alvern game, take your pick on that one, 14-12. Both those teams come out of that with a lot of respect for each other and a lot of respect from the league as a whole. But let's not forget Memorial, Nick. They beat Portsmouth Oyster River 33-17. And this team, I'm excited to get out there and see this football team. Don't think you're not being watched, Memorial. You are. And the coaching staff and the whole football community, Memorial, is just doing a fantastic job. The numbers are up. So many good things happen. Can't wait to get out and see Memorial play game. They have been a team that there's so many good teams to talk about. We just don't want to lose sight of what they're accomplishing this year.
Right. Yeah, good point. Somebody voted for Memorial this week
Yep.
in the New Hampshire Union Leader Power Poll.
Yep. And that just shows you they're coming on.
Remains nameless. All right. Want to
Yep.
thank the sponsors tonight. Beals Insurance, MG Sports Fundraising, the New Hampshire Tomahawks, and Colonial Printing. We appreciate the ongoing support. And, of course, we appreciate our guest tonight. Another stud lineup that includes Tom King of the the Nashua Telegraph. And, of course, he's a broadcaster as well at ETV. And the 3 head coaches for jumping on as well. Matt Lee from Alvern, Ryan Ray from Central, and Scott Knight from Nashua South. The whole thing orchestrated smoothly by the man behind the curtain, the wizard of replay, our director, Ben Beals, back in the Beals Insurance Studios. For Steve Beals, I'm Nick Anastas saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow night in our Friday Night Lights New Hampshire Game of the Week between Alvern and Londonderry. We'll see you next week as well here on FNL Gridiron every Thursday, 6 o'clock Eastern, here on Friday Night Lights New Hampshire. We're presented by Beals Insurance.